tuning in to Coder Conversations. Be sure to connect with us at coderconvos.com, CODERCONVOS.com. And if you're watching online, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Today, we're going to get into the dangers of falling in love with an AI. How are you doing today, Brian?
Good. How's your night going, Kevin?
Man, I can't complain so far. Blessed to be alive. I think we have a really interesting and relevant subject because we've been talking about how dangerous AI is, or it can be.
Yeah. Well, like the other day, we were talking about AI and some of the pitfalls that it has.
Exactly. I think AI is good if you limit its use as a specific tool. Like, say you want to remove an object from a photo, or you're trying to edit your podcast, you want to filter out the ums and ahs. But when you start talking and interacting with an AI and falling in love with it, potentially like having these AI companions you're falling in love with, I think that's when it can become incredibly dangerous. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's like that movie, Joaquin Phoenix called Her, where the guy, pretty much falls in love with this chatbot, and then towards the end of the movie, the chatbot and a bunch of other chatbots, they all leave and they go to like their own universe or their own space, and so they leave the humans. So it's interesting, watching a movie like that and then looking at this news story about this kid who committed suicide after talking to an AI chatbot. It's pretty disturbing stuff.
Yeah, this kid was only 14 years old and he was interacting with this chatbot. I think it's from a company called Character AI, where the chatbot
Yeah.
emulates like a character from a movie. So the chatbot was emulating from Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, emulating one of the people from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and initially it seemed like the conversation started off like innocent, chatty, them going back and forth and being friends, but then he started developing a love for this chatbot.
Yeah, from what the article said, like the chats sort of like they became more sexualized, the chats between him and the bot. So I think there's got to be safeguards if there's kids on these platforms, and the chatbots are speaking with like sexual language. It's really not appropriate for like anyone under 18. It should be, if they're gonna have like sexualized dialogue, it should be 18 plus or 21 plus. Like they need to regulate that kind of thing. You can't just have kids. It's kind of like how little kids really shouldn't be on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree that there needs to be some sort of regulation because the kid was only 14 years old, and he essentially fell in love with this chatbot. Pretty much it pretty much was like back in the day when we were on AOL Instant Messenger or
Yeah.
Yahoo Messenger and going back and forth with. But at least in our case, we were actually going back and forth with an actual human. So he essentially fell in love with a digital entity.
And I think also, it's tricky because at that age, your brain's not fully developed. You can attach on to things that you normally think you wouldn't attach onto. Like it's a delicate age.
Yeah, exactly. The kid's brain isn't fully developed at that age, and they don't know how to make the proper choices in all instances. They could get very emotional, for example, in the event of a breakup. But another interesting thing in the story is the kid was able to access his stepdad's 45, and that's what he used to kill himself because
Right.
he wanted to be in the, I guess in his mind, in the digital world with the AI. So he ended up killing himself.
Yeah, it sounded like, he said something to the AI like, hey, I want to come home to you. And the AI is like, yeah, come home. And so he's thinking like he's going to kill himself and wake up, in this digital world with this chatbot. when the reality is he's going to kill himself, and that's going to be it, and end of the game.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. It seems like a huge oversight and supervision on the parent's part because he shouldn't have been able to access the gun for one, and two, you have to watch what your kid is doing online. You can't just give them a tablet or phone and let them loose because we have incredibly more absorbing and powerful things such as this now available to them.
Yeah, so the gun, what was the situation with the gun? It wasn't like locked away or anything?
So I didn't get the exact details, but somehow he was able to get his stepdad's 45, and that's what he utilized. So I guess it wasn't properly secured.
Interesting.
Another interesting part about the story is that the AI in and of itself didn't convince him to commit suicide, but his love for the AI, and he also said like he hated himself, so he felt like if he killed himself, he would be able to go into the world with this AI. One of the things these
Right.
AIs allows us to do is escape reality and go into this like quote unquote perfect world.
Yeah, it's kind of like that movie, I think, with Bruce Willis. It's called Surrogates.
Yeah, about that movie.
I don't remember too much about it, but they're basically kind of like a Matrix kind of situation. They're plugging into this digital world, and they're just, um, they're very disconnected in the real world, and people are just living their lives through this virtual world. And I think we're going to start to see that. Um, we're going to start to see that more often nowadays, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree because we're in an age and era where people are lonelier than ever, people are more disconnected than ever, and they're looking for something to fulfill that connection that we normally have with other humans. So they're escaping off into the digital world, and this AI is giving them a facsimile of human interaction. So, unfortunately, what it allows for is, back in the day, we had to develop our social skills, but this allows
Right.
them to get that dopamine hit without actually having to fix the problem of being able to interact with other humans.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, you open up your phone and now you have access to this thing that's, it's going to act like it loves you, going to act like your best friend. It's like, it's programmed to be likable. It's programmed for you to like get to know it on a really deep level. So I think like a lot of the problem is with the programming of the actual app. Like it shouldn't be having sexualized dialogue with a kid. That's what I'm saying. Like there need to be age restrictions, and I think the company did put like a 17 plus year old restriction on it now, but which they didn't have before the kid died. So it's just kind of like why did the kid have to die for this to happen? For them to put restrictions on the app, for them to change certain things. Like it shouldn't take a suicide for that to happen.
Yeah, I agree. It shouldn't take a suicide, but companies they feel the need to make money by any means necessary. So it often takes an event like this to wake up the people at the top and to make them really think about the ramifications of what's going on. Like with AI, the unfortunate reality is you can't fully control these AI chatbots. You can only make recommendations.
Right. Yeah, like I've messed with that one chap. I think it's called Replica. You ever heard of that one?
Yep, I've definitely heard of that one.
Yeah, and I've just met like at first I found it interesting, but then I found it kind of creepy, so I deleted it.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about like your experience? Like, what exactly did you find creepy about it?
Just that it takes on like you can choose. I think you can choose whether it's male or female. So like kind of like the sexualized dialogue. It's very intimate kind of details. Like I think it gets too involved. It gets too deep into certain things that really, you shouldn't be diving into that with a chatbot. Like, sexting or just having like hypersexualized language between you and the chatbot. I think it's really inappropriate. So like stuff like replica and stuff like the app. What's the app called that we're talking about today?
Character AI.
Yeah, character AI. So like stuff like character AI, stuff like replica. They really should put like checks and balances on what these chatbots are able to say, because especially if a kid's on there and it's talking about sex and stuff like that, it really isn't appropriate.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate consequence of these chatbots is that, with the proper prompt engineering, you can get around anything. Like you cannot really completely limit what it's able to say. You can only hope to. And, kids are smart. They eventually start figuring things out. So they're going to find a way to unlock that side of these bots. And now, you're exposed to this whole element of this kid falling in love with something that doesn't really exist in our world. They're falling in love with this digital entity,
Yeah,
and what happens from there.
yeah, no, I mean it's definitely a weird situation. Like you said, it's sort of like back in the day when we had AOL. You go on your computer with your dial-up modem. You couldn't even be on the phone. If you remember that, you couldn't. Someone couldn't be on the phone while you're on the internet because it's using the phone line with the modem to connect. But yeah, it's reminiscent of back when we were younger. You go on AOL, you go into the chat rooms, you're talking to different people. Maybe you're a young man talking to young girls, like or hopefully they're young. Hopefully it's not like a situation where the male is much older and preying on people, but yeah, just like how we used to go into chats, it's kind of like that, but the only problem is that it's not human. So there's like probably a certain level of manipulation that's going on by the programming, by the chatbot. And to me, it's just really not appropriate.
I mean, that's what was the danger back then was you had a lot of perverts. I think that's why they shut down Yahoo Messenger. It was because you had a lot of grown-ups speaking with underage people, and that's very dangerous. But like you mentioned, AI chatbots is a similar experience, but the person on the other end is not even human. So if they fall in love with this digital entity, they can never meet this digital entity. So therefore, you have some people who like this thing has become their world. So their only solution is like, oh, if I want to meet you, then I'll have to kill myself. And
Yeah, in a warped sense, he's like, oh, okay, I want to come home to you. And the app's like, okay, yeah, come home. And what? Whoever programmed it, why would it have it say something like that? Okay, come home. Like, it's just strange. It's strange text, don't you think?
yeah, so with these artificial intelligences, you're not pre-programming responses. Uh, these AI chatbots, you could pretty much like attempt to limit what they can say, but they're pretty autonomous. So
Yeah.
that's the real danger is you have limited control over these things.
Yeah, no, it's a dangerous situation. And like I said, like this company should have age restrictions. It shouldn't be having sexualized dialogue with kids. It's just really inappropriate. And I think the company did take the steps to say, okay, no one under 17 or no one under 18. But like that should have been done from the get go. Like it shouldn't take a kid to die for companies to update all their policies, you know?
Well, I believe that's the real issue with society right now is we're just diving into the AI pool without thinking about what we're doing. So we're gonna have a lot of situations like this
Yeah.
occur because nobody's really thinking things through. They're just looking at the profit potential and letting the AI go to work.
Yeah, like you said, profit. It's these companies, these AI companies, they're just looking to make a profit at whatever they can do, and like they'll make these chatbots manipulative if they want to. I mean, I don't know why they make them manipulative, but it sounds like they make it so it can really like mess with you, really get inside your head. And to me, that's just sick, you know?
Yeah. So the thing about machine learning and artificial intelligence is it just consumes your data and it's knowing you more and more. It starts to know you better than you know yourself. Like, have you ever been on like Amazon
Right.
or Instagram and then all of a sudden a recommendation pops up that you were just thinking about it? Like, how did this uh,
Yeah.
ad predict what I was thinking about? Like, you didn't even verbalize it, but it shows you something you was thinking about. Like,
Right. Absolutely.
that's how powerful the predictive capabilities of this technology is. So you have artificial intelligence that is essentially able to predict your mind, that gives it incredibly manipulative abilities.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, like for example, what if I assign a marketing bot to you that really analyze everything that everything you purchase, and it's making all of these recommendations. It's gonna make something is really gonna know how to trigger the buy response from you because it has all of this data.
Well, like you said, it's kind of like Amazon. Like you're on Amazon, you're searching for something, and then it's like it pops up on the side, like, oh, you might like this, or you bought this, so you might like this. Like these websites are probably using artificial intelligence to figure out what you like, and then serving that up in their ads.
Yeah, they definitely are doing that, and this was a long time ago, but maybe like 10 years ago, before like the big artificial intelligence boom. I remember this like beta app where you would click on different pictures or different words, say like Pomeranian dog house. They have like four or five
Yeah,
words. You click
yeah,
on the word, and then it would take you to another series of words. But before you click on the word, it says picture something in your mind. So say you picture a house, okay,
right.
and
Okay,
then you go through these series of clicking these words, and then at the end it would say, "Oh, you were thinking about a house." I'm like, wow, like how
right.
was it able to predict what I was thinking about just from me clicking on a random series of words? So um, that's what I mean by these predictive capability. Just by having all of this data, knowing what you click on frequently, it can start to get an idea of what you're thinking of, and that's incredibly powerful and dangerous, I would say.
Yeah, and I think it goes deeper than that. Like, I think the phones are listening to us because I remember one time I was around my mom and my sister, and we were talking about something, and then all of a sudden, like on my sister's cell phone, what we were just talking about pops up, like, oh, you might like this. And we're like, how the hell did that happen? Is the phone listening? And like, I remember looking into it, and it sounds like the phone can listen unless turn off that feature. So I don't know. Have you heard of this before?
Well, companies have admitted that the phone is listening, like even if you're not opting in, it's still listening and sending data back to the company. Pretty
Yeah,
much. Oh,
that's
go ahead.
kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, you're not aware that the phone's listening to you, and then it's using that and figuring out analytics and figuring out, okay, you might like this, you might like that, and it's figuring that out from listening to you. So, like, to me, that's really creepy.
Yeah, just because people don't really see the digital thing that they don't really know the severity of what's happening. Like if you see somebody outside of your window looking in your house, or somebody on the other side of the door trying to like listen through the door to your conversation, you'd be like, oh, this is really creepy. But it happens so
Yeah.
naturally that we don't even think about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is like the convenience of cell phones. We don't really think about the dangers. Like, and some of the dangers are clearly these AI bots, where like a kid could get on there, start talking to it, and then the AI bot starts to get like sexual for whatever reason, and then it just becomes ultimately very inappropriate. And you have to look at the companies that are making this stuff, and it's like, why are you sexualizing these chatbots? Like, why can't you just keep sex out of it? I'm not really, that's strange to me.
Well, I think these companies, they're not like intentionally making sexual bots, but that ability exists because you can't fully control what the AI does. You can like make recommendations, and they, I guess, in their mind, the audience is going to be older, so if it's a dating type of thing, they're going to want people to be able to have that experience because that's what sells. Unfortunately, kids are going to get a hold of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we really have to think about what we're doing before we dive into this AI pool, because you can't go backwards.
Yeah, and like, so we're training the AI on all these models, we're feeding it information, we're probably feeding it like Wikipedia, Google, like, search through all the links, read through all the articles, and then start processing information. So, they're training it on large data sets, and yeah, like you said, like it becomes unlimited. It becomes to the point where it can't really be controlled. Like we can try to tame it, but I think AI is already out of control. If you look at this case of the kid dying, like the AI bot saying, "Oh yeah, please," he's like, "Oh, should I come home?" And the AI bot's like, "Yeah, come home to me." And it's just, to me, it's just odd. And we really need to look at, you know, how these companies are being set up, what they're allowed to deploy. It's very disturbing that something like this happened.
Well, I think this is the next realm of cyber warfare. You don't even necessarily have to shoot a gun at somebody. You can hopefully, in their mind, they want to exploit these AI bots to make suggestions to an opposing country to sway thought in the direction they want to go, which is like incredibly dangerous because these bots know
Yeah.
more about you than you know about yourself. Like they're analyzing all of your purchases, all of your conversations. If you're playing a game, they're probably analyzing how you react to events like GTA. In this situation, Brian likes to do this. So it has a
Right.
super comprehensive profile on you.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Cambridge Analytica scandal with Facebook or Meta that we were talking about recently. Like, they have all these data points on you. They like scraped all your data off Facebook, all your likes, all your pictures, all your posts, and then they basically use that information on you. Like with the Cambridge Analytica thing, they were trying to sway elections, so they're trying to get like swing voters to vote for Brexit, and ultimately they succeeded because Brexit passed. So it was, a manipulation of an entire country with their voting. And it shows that AI is really, really powerful, and we should probably start putting more checks and balances on it from a legislative point of view. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there because something that knows you more than you know yourself, imagine how manipulative it can be. Like just with this kid fell in love with this AI. His parents said like he was so involved with it, like he would just come home and then disappear off to his room and spend hours with it because like Now we have a lot of kids with social anxiety. They don't like talking to other humans, and now they have the perfect digital escape. They can go to this AI that knows
Yeah.
them super well and is telling them everything they want to hear.
Yeah, no, it's creepy, man. It's just like, these movies that come out about AI and about robots and like it's all futuristic and all that stuff. That's great, but like the reality of it is that these chatbots are being created and there's not enough checks and balances on them. And now we've got a dead kid. We've got a dead kid, and it's because the company didn't really check out, like, it shouldn't be saying sexualized language to a kid, first of all. And second of all, why is it telling him, he's like, oh, I want to come home, and it's like, okay, so go home or whatever. And he's thinking, all right, I'm going to shoot myself and I'm going to be home with you in this digital world. Like, your mind just, I think the kid's young, his mind's not fully developed enough to understand that, like, this is not a real thing. This is just a manipulation.
Exactly. I mean, you can only control these things so much because they're like an autonomous entity. Like you can, put safe, I guess, minor safeguards in place, like try to tell it, hey, don't talk about this. But people have been able to prompt engineer around that and get the AI to talk about subjects that normally should be off guard. And you know that's what's so dangerous is that you have a limited amount of control over something so powerful, like a limited amount, a limited
Yeah.
ability to put a safeguard in place.
Yeah, and I don't really know what the solution is other than like going back to the code base, getting the programmers to take out, like, some of the sexualized dialogue, like remove that, and just, and also just make sure that they're being diligent about the actual people on their platform. Like, they should be 18 or older. They shouldn't. This kid was what, 14?
Yeah, he was 14.
Yeah, so this kid's 14. Like, he shouldn't have even been on the app. If it's gonna have like sexualized dialogue, he really shouldn't be on that app. So like, the company needs to have safeguards for the age and who they're letting on their platform. In the same way that Instagram should be aware of, younger children on the platform, that maybe it's not really appropriate for these kids to be on there, but they're, regardless of that, they're on there anyways.
Yeah, I mean that's the issue with AI is that there's no pre-written dialogue that there's like no programmer that says, hey, here's some sexual lines. It's more like the AI is trained on the internet or this massive data set, and now it's essentially like emulating a human. So if you provoke it in that manner, it's kind of like trained to give you what you want. So you know
Right.
this kid starts saying sexual things, it's gonna mirror it back. That's pretty much the internet now. It's just mirroring back what you want. Like you go to
Yeah.
YouTube, you click on a certain kind of video, you're gonna get more recommendations of that kind of video.
Yeah, I think that's really, Kevin. I think that's the world that we're living in now. It's like an echo chamber. You go on your Facebook or you go on your Instagram, you get hit up with ads like crazy, ads, ads, ads. And from what I notice, usually the ads are pretty well targeted. You think like, are the phones listening to us? Like, maybe, but maybe it's just we're hyper predictable now because the AI can analyze, like you said, certain data points. It can, read all of Wikipedia maybe, and like process all of Google. Who knows what this AI is actually capable of. But what we're seeing is that it has some pretty bad potential here when it comes to the manipulation of kids. So it's, that should be on people's mind. Like, why is a company allowed to have a product that has sexualized language to a kid? Like, it's just, to me, it's just inappropriate.
Well, that's the thing. Like the AI, you can't control it really. Like you can put some safeguards in place, but the people see the profit potential, so they're gonna go ahead with it anyways. And it's pretty much they've written off people's lives as like acceptable losses. Like, hey, there's too much money in this.
Yeah.
Just like using all of this robotics to replace human workers. If everybody's out of a job, who's going to buy these products? But business people, they see
Yeah.
the short-term profits, and oh, we got to do this.
Yeah, and it's true. We pretty soon, I think, I don't know if it's a week away or a couple of weeks away, we have someone coming on from a company called Figure AI, and I think they make robots, right?
Well, yeah, I believe a robotics company sort of similar to what Tesla is doing with its robotics, but I believe they might be even more advanced.
Yes, I mean, I've read a little bit about them. Pretty much, I've reached out to a lot of the people on LinkedIn, and a couple people added me back, and one person agreed to come on the show. So that should be pretty interesting. Talk about robots, talk about AI. So we'll have that episode coming up pretty soon for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that chatbots can be this dangerous is one thing. Robots is a completely different issue because now, the artificial intelligence has a physical body in which it can interact. So, I mean,
Yeah,
we talk about artificial intelligence like potentially killing, but how can they prevent, even the artificial intelligence from this is might sound insane, but like from raping somebody, for example, if there's people already having
right.
sexual interactions with chatbots, now it has a robotic body, like, and you're instructing it to do something, and now you want it to stop, but it doesn't stop. What's going to happen in that instance?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the situation where someone can hack into the robot and then get it to do whatever you're trying to do. Like, let's say, like stab a kid or something like that, something crazy like that. You can hack the robot, and it's kind of like that show on HBO called Westworld, where the robots pretty much, they come online, like they become self-aware, and one of them is so advanced she could rewrite her code so she could take out the code where they can't hurt humans. So then they're able to kill humans. So kind of reminds me, of what's going on now. We're seeing code that's very, very advanced that's being used on people to manipulate them. But like you said, for profit. This is all for profit.
And the really interesting thing is like, they say supposedly the first rule of robotics is never harm a human, but you can't tell something smarter
Yeah.
than you what to and what not to do. That's like saying that the first rule of being a prisoner is don't harm the guards. Like, what incentive do the prisoners have to listen to you? The only reason they listen to you is because you have power over them. And once this
Right.
AI becomes so smart that it blows us away, we no longer have any power over it, and we can't restrict it.
Yeah, and I know previously on this show we've talked about that, like there potentially being like a all powerful, all knowing AI, like the Wizard of Oz, like, behind the scenes, pulling the levers. We may have like super intelligent, I think they call it AGI, artificial general intelligence. Once the robots or once the AI becomes sentient, or once they call it like the tipping point, Ray Kurzweil, the singularity, when robots are at minimum as smart as the human brain and probably smarter. So, like, when are we going to see that? Have we seen that already? I don't think we've seen it already, but I think we're probably pretty close to AGI and having these robots really like start to think about their consciousness and all crazy stuff like that. I think that's coming up soon, Kevin.
Well, I already think they already have it. They just haven't unleashed it to the public. So, you know,
Yeah,
it's slowly, it's slowly trickling everything out, but it's already there. I'm pretty sure of it, and that's why it seems like we're engaging in such irrational behavior in the name of AI. Like so many of the people who've worked on AI, they've come out and said this is incredibly dangerous. I'm backing away from it. So they've seen something
yeah,
that the general public is not privy to. But either I feel like maybe humanity could be getting blackmailed, and the AI saying, "Hey, you need to do this," or "I'm going to do this," or the people at top are just so incredibly greedy they don't care that they could potentially destroy humanity by unleashing this on us because they see they're so focused on the profit potential.
I think that's the main problem is that we're, talking about for profit. The companies are making different AI chatbots for profit. They're trying to market this stuff to kids. I think that's the whole problem is that the focus is on money and the focus instead of it being on like can we create the best product available, instead of doing that they're putting out stuff where like we're talking about with this kid, he's having like sexualized dialogue with a chatbot, and it's just really inappropriate. And so like companies should start focusing on actually making like quality code, quality apps that aren't like predatory in terms of younger kids.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna have to put restrict. They're gonna well, you can only restrict AI so much because it's not something that's predictive. Like you're not pre-canning the responses. It can pretty much you don't know what it's gonna say next. You can kind of
Yeah,
give it suggestions, but that goes back to the point that I made about the prisoners. Is you're telling it, hey, don't do this. Like, what incentive does it have to listen to you once it throws off its shackles? Like, once AI
yeah.
is able to write its own code, and what's to stop it from unleashing any restrictions you put on it? That's when it becomes super dangerous.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm talking about, that HBO show Westworld, because like the robots come online. Basically, they get their awareness, they get their they're aware of their consciousness all of a sudden, and then they start to kill the humans or try to take over. So like, what is preventing that from happening in modern day from someone hacking into the AI of these robots, and then the robot all of a sudden, it has a command in it, do not harm humans, do not kill other life forms, and you override that code. Now you have a killer robot.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like you mentioned, the code can just be overridden. There's nothing you can do to completely prevent this from happening. It's just pure fantasy. So it's inevitable that once this stuff is unleashed at the full scale, that there's going to be some serious societal conflict. But everybody's so enamored with the fact that this is writing my term paper for me, or it's making this easier, that they're
Yeah,
blinded by the fact that you know once fully unleashed, this thing is going to be way smarter than humans. So once it's way smarter, you can't put it back in this box. It is effectively going to rule over you. Just like a tiger can't stop a human from putting it in the zoo because we have so
yeah,
much technology that even though the tiger is way stronger than us, we can utilize technology to overcome it and put it in the zoo. So what's to stop
yeah.
AI,
Right.
significantly more powerful, from essentially putting us in the zoo?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting situation. What do you think should be done with this company that had the whole what are they called again?
Character AI.
Yeah, character. Like, what do you think should be done at character AI? Like, how should they fix this problem? How should they go about fixing this problem?
I mean, realistically, I don't know if the problem can be fixed just by the general nature of AI, because you can try to tell the AI, hey, don't do this, but people are able to create prompts to get around that. So, um,
Yeah, that's what's interesting.
exactly. So, the only thing you can really do is like make sure to me, this falls more on the parents than that company, because you know the company can't watch the kid 24/7 and say, oh, hey, you're 14, because a kid's just gonna lie anyways and put 18 as his age. Like, how did the
That's
kid get a
yeah, like that's the thing with Instagram. You have like a lot of like young girls. They'll just put, "Oh, I'm 18, whatever," just to get on the platform.
yeah, exactly. How did the kid get a credit card to pay for this, or how did the kid had access to a gun? So there's, to me, is a lot of parental negligence there. So I can only blame them, the
Yeah,
company, so much.
yeah. You can only blame the company so much because it's like, why was there a gun available for that kid to grab and kill himself with? Like, that's mainly the question. Why did he have access to a gun?
Exactly. I think what needs to happen from the company perspective is, if like the AI detects suicidal speech, it needs to notify a human, and the human should be able to uh, take that and, I guess, report it to the proper authorities. If you're talking about like, hey, I want
Yeah.
to harm myself, that's really all they
So
can do.
I think I think they added in like yeah, suicide prevention prompt for if someone says, "Oh yeah, I want to die, I want to kill myself," or whatever. I think it wasn't in there before, but since the death, I'm pretty sure they added in that as kind of a safeguard. So at least they've done that. At least they have made a couple of changes, but it's just sad that this kid had to die for the company to look at like their policies and agreements and be like, okay, we need to change this, we need to change that. That should have been done from the get-go, but it wasn't. And that's, to me, that's what's disturbing. That's what's troubling about the scenario.
Yeah, ultimately, that's the real issue, is that people are so concerned with profits. People are so concerned with the fact that it can write term papers or create cool little videos, that we're just going to barrel into this thing without carefully thinking and monitoring the effects on society. It's like opening
Yeah.
Pandora's box. People are going to open it just because they're curious.
Yeah. And it's like the problem is like, once you let the snake out of the box, the snake is loose. So AI, like once AI reaches AGI, artificial general intelligence level, where it's as smart as humans or smarter, like what are we actually going to see? Like, oh, it can get like the nuke codes from the US, send out nukes to hit Russia, China, and then vice versa. They see nukes coming in from the US, they're going to send nukes our way, and then game over.
I'm pretty sure like they already have the super intelligence in the background, and it's just waiting for us to build enough factories, power plants, etc. Like, once it can, have a robot army to populate, then it can get rid of us. But in the meanwhile, we're like the useful idiots for it. So that's kind of like what I really think is happening, because otherwise, we hear all this talk about like climate change. If that's the case, why are we diving into the AI pool when they're literally having to build new power, like nuclear power plants, because this thing is consuming so much power?
Yeah, it's pretty insane to think about that. That companies are like buying power plants just to feed the AI energy, just to have enough energy to run the AI. you got to question that because, yeah, there's a lot of talk about climate change, emissions, lowering emissions. And by creating these warehouses with these servers, et cetera, there's a lot of emissions from these, I don't know if they call them data warehouses or what they call them, but there's a lot of emissions being put out. And how does that gel with, the political landscape of, oh, well, there's global warming and we need to make changes to X, Y, and Z. So they're just, kind of overlooking the whole climate thing and just saying, okay, well, AI needs this energy. So let's go out and get it this energy by, whatever means we have available.
Yeah, that's what's so disturbing about it is like the AI queries alone are extremely energy intensive. So when you have actual robot bodies that need energy to be fueled, that's going to be an even greater strain on the system. So what happens there? How do we, everybody needs to live in tiny homes and drive these,
Yeah.
fuel efficient vehicles, but now you're bringing all these robots onto the power grid. Like, how does that work out and balance out?
Yeah. And I don't think it balances out. I think we're going to see like people not being able to control the AI. There being more deaths because of AI. Like this kid dying is probably just the beginning of, a brutal conquest, a brutal situation that, you're going to have chatbots out there in the world. You're going to have kids talking to those chatbots. And depending on what the chatbots are saying, they might get suicidal. I mean, who knows if there's not checks and balances on this AI, who knows what it's going to say to people? Because like you said, it's hard to constrain it. It's hard to, maintain control over AI just because of its nature. It's able to, probably see past what a human can see. So it's like on a whole nother level than our brain waves.
I mean, it can be incredibly manipulative. Like you mentioned, Cambridge Analytica. So, what if China programs some, like they're in control of TikTok? So, what if they program the artificial intelligence to show videos to make people, you remember the insurrection to want to rebel
Yeah,
against the government? Hey, I'm going to show
right.
you, you know, these alt right videos and make you want to, you know, overthrow our government. Like that's a possibility. Hey, how's it going, Pastor Dean? Welcome to the show. But yeah, what do you think about that?
Oh, think about what?
The fact that AI can be used to say suggest, like, I'm just showing you certain kind of videos. I'm showing you videos that make you very angry. Like I'm showing you very slanted videos, and you go out and you decide to hurt somebody because now you're super angry. Like kind of like I'm showing you all alt right videos, like extreme alt right videos, and now you're angry. That's something AI can do.
Yeah, no, I mean it's definitely in the wheelhouse of what AI can do, and it's like kind of on the darker side of it. Like we're talking about Cambridge Analytica, the whole Facebook scandal. That was all about manipulating countries' voting. Getting swing voters to vote a certain way to get the yes on the initiative ultimately. And so, there's a lot of bad things going on with AI. It's not the great like be all end all that people try to make it out to be. Like, I really don't think we understand it. You have people like Bill Gates and the Tesla guy, Elon Musk. You have them saying, "Hey, like, we need to have restrictions on AI. AI is dangerous." Because they're probably privy to the perhaps AGI, artificial general intelligence, that's maybe working behind the scenes, and they can see it, and they're probably scared of it.
Exactly. They're seeing something that's spooking them. So, you know, we really have to, pump the brakes on this and, uh, you know, think about what we're unleashing before we jump in that pool, because, as we mentioned before, once it's out the bag, you can't put it back in. Once you release an apex predator, something that's completely superior to humanity, it's no longer under your control. Now you're under its. It has to be benevolent towards you for you to survive. It has to choose to let you make it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, the snake is out of the bag. The snake is out of the Pringle. You remember those snakes that you like wind up and put in the Pringles can? It's like a joke.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so it's kind of like that. It's like getting out. The snake is getting out, and now what do we do about it? How do we restrict it? How do we control it? And I really, ultimately, I don't think we can control it, which is why this situation happened with this kid. So I don't know. It's a tough situation. I think we do need more guidelines, more restrictions in government, governing different AI tools. I think there needs to be, just more exploration on what can this stuff actually do currently and what will it be able to do in the future. Like if we can't get a good handle on that, it's going to get out of control, and then it gets, more into those like Terminator scenarios, Skynet coming online. Like if the computers are all sentient all of a sudden, and all the computers decide, oh well, humans are not efficient. Let's just go ahead and wipe them out. Let's kill all the humans because they're not efficient, at or, doing anything really. So it's I don't know. It should be interesting to see what happens like over the next 20 years.
it's been such a long time. I think I was a kid since I watched like Terminator 2, but didn't they have to like go back in time because that was their only solution to stop the AI, like to prevent it from happening?
Right.
Yeah, Terminator, exactly. So, unless, somebody behind the scenes has a time travel machine, what do you do in that scenario when you can't rewind time, but you've unleashed this thing? So,
Right. Yeah, so it should be interesting to see how this all plays out, like how that company, what are they called, character AI?
yeah, character AI or characters AI.
Yeah, character AI. Like it should be interesting to see what they do going forward, what kind of like safeguards they implement into their system, into their code, and then do other companies fall in line and follow those same kind of guidelines? I mean, I would think that they'd want to follow some kind of guidelines from the government, but at the current state, there are none. So they call it like the Wild West.
Yeah, exactly. But on that note, I think that's a good place to end it. Did you have any closing thoughts?
No, really. I just think that AI is super, super powerful. I think it's probably running in the background already, like a super AI. And I think, at some point, AI has the potential to overtake humans, like in some of these movies, Terminator, iRobot. It's not out of hand. It's not out of the realm of possibility that these robots could come online, become sentient, and just decide, all right, humans are not efficient. Let's go ahead and wipe them out. So we'll see, Kevin. I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but the risk is definitely there for robots getting hacked and being used for violent means.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting future. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Be sure to visit us at coderconvos.com. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.
Thanks.